Good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. on July 27th, 2022. We will go ahead and call to order the Tech Plat review meeting. This meeting is being held in room 326 in City Hall and both virtually through Zoom. So attendees are attending through one of either of those options. My name is Jessie Masters. I'm the Development Review Manager here, and we'll go ahead and get started with our first item of old business. Is LSIP 2022-02. This is a large site improvement plan submitted by SCM Architects for properties located at 2132 East Joyce Boulevard. The property is zoned CS and contains approximately 2.22 acres. The request is for an approximately 5,784 square foot car wash, 7,344 square foot detailing tunnel, and associated parking. Do we have an applicant present on this item today?
This is Mark Blakely with Fayetteville Engineering. I can represent today.
Okay, I missed your last name. I'm sorry. One more time for me, please.
That'd be Mark Blakely.
Blakely.
With Fayetteville Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Blakely. All right, Ms. Harrison, if you would please introduce the item.
Thank you. Good morning. So, planning had a few comments on this submittal still. We are okay moving it forward, but I believe a few other divisions are going to be tabling it this morning. Just to go over some of the planning comments on the item. I asked for some additional clarity on the setback along Joyce Boulevard, and just asking that they be shown from the master street plan right of way there, and that the sidewalk be shown at the back of the master street plan right of way rather than the existing right of way. Also just had a comment about streetlights and pointed you to the comments that Ozarks Electric left on the plan. They are asking for a 30-foot wide easement along their overhead electric line on the edge of the property. And then just had a couple of drafting comments about the aisle width that was dimensioned and parking stalls. So that is really all that I had from planning, but again, it's going to be tabled this morning.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harrison. Engineering, did you have comments on this one today?
Hi, good morning. Josh from Engineering. I did have comments on this one, mainly revolving around the drainage design. I think we tabled this project last time. We're now in compliance with minimum standards, water quality, channel protection. One thing that did kind of want to point out, the amount of impervious area that's not being treated is in excess of 10,000 square feet, and so that's something that we're not comfortable with. It might be a good idea to take a look at different options as far as the drainage design, looking at underground detention or different proprietary devices. So just had some more information that's needed, and needed to see some compliance with water quality and channel protection. So I'm available for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Boccaccio. Urban Forestry.
Yes, good morning. Urban Forestry is tabling this project due to low tree preservation numbers. I noticed in your narrative that you said that you were preserving 15%, but I went over the calculations and I'm still just calculating 4.4%. And so I've made some notes and comments with those. So please double check me, let me know if you don't agree, but I'm not seeing the changes. And that 15% minimum requirement is based on existing trees. It doesn't also include areas for new or proposed trees. I don't know, maybe if that's where some of the disconnect is, but just wanted to point that out. Let's see. If you can't preserve more trees, I definitely need to see a site analysis report and different design options that you considered, showing you why this is the best option, and the one that you have to have. It doesn't matter how, rudimentary they are. They can just be rough sketches, but I need, something to show that the site was really looked at and the trees were considered. Also, let's see, tree preservation easements need to be dedicated and shown clearly. I think you do have that called out on the western side. And also you'll need to show limits of root pruning along all trees, to be preserved near construction. That's again more on that western side. And I revised the tree preservation calculations to reflect what exists on site today. I know there was removal on the north side by a prior owner or somebody. So I think it's close to 60% existing today. So it's still over the minimum 15% required, which means there won't be any penalty. But I thought let's just go ahead and reflect what's actually out there today in those numbers. Not a huge deal, but just want to make sure we're accurate on that. Also, for landscape comments, let's see, 1 tree island per 12 parking spaces is required, so that southern bay of parking needs a tree island in there, if you can work one in. It was more, I don't remember how many, but it's more than 12 spaces in a row. And then also, in your irrigation notes on that sheet, if you could just include a note about taking care around the existing trees, making sure they're not trenching through all the roots and that they don't, put too much water on them if those trees aren't, they're not used to artificial irrigation. So just include that, please, and let me know if I can help or if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Nathan Wood from Fire, do you have any comments on this?
Yes, this is Nathan with Fire Marshal's office. The only comment Fire has is that all areas not designated as parking need to be marked as fire lane. That's the only comment Fire has.
Okay, thank you. We do not have a representative here from Solid Waste today, but I'm sure if they have comments, they will let you know. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant. I do see that a Tommy Wise Ehlers has raised their hand. I don't know if that's a part of the applicant's team, so I'm going to give them permission to speak.
Hey, this is Tommy. I'm with SCM Architects.
Hi, how are you? Do you have questions for staff at this time?
I don't know if I have questions, just more frustrations, but let's see. With the whole tree preservation thing, I believe we sent in multiple different iterations prior to this meeting. We've been tabled probably 3 times now, and this has been an issue every time. We've tried to do everything we can to save what's out there. I don't know where we're gonna find more trees to save unless we save them all in the easement that's up at the front. Looks like it's dedicated for something else now. We will do everything we can to save what we can, for sure. We seem to be getting different feedback from whichever different person is reviewing the drawing. So I'm not sure of the gentleman's name, but I know Melissa, we've gotten comments from you, we've gotten different comments back from the gentleman. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. So if we could just get some consistency as to what both of you all are looking for, that would be great.
I think you're referring to John Scott, and I think our comments have been consistent.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you mean. John and I are on the same page about this and confer with each other, and I used his notes to review this since he had, I believe, reviewed it last time.
Okay.
This site went from 95% plus to having 30% removal for unknown reasons. It's down to less than 60%. And you're trying to preserve 4.4%. I mean, the minimum requirement is 15%, and this site is, a heavy stand of good quality forest.
Right.
So I'm not sure how much more clear I can be on that. I'll go back and look at the different options and see if that will suffice. I don't remember seeing anything that varied, widely from what's presented today, but I will look at that. But, some kind of written site analysis report statement, stating the constraints on this site that you've dealt with and why, again, this needs to be the site design option that you're going with would greatly help. You know, I need that documentation and that information to make the determination and to have that in the files. As far as the existing easement goes in the front, I'm trying to remember, what is that, a sewer line going through there or?
Yes, it's a water line. Yes, ma'am. It's a 36-inch water line.
Okay. And Josh may be able to help with this. I mean, if there's, it looks like you're not grading in there. If you can preserve those trees in there, that would be great. I know they're subject to removal at any time. And also, make sure they're not included in your calculations. I mean, they don't count for or against you. I know when I was recalculating, I was not counting them, so I don't believe they are counted as part of, you know, the calculations, which is fine. But if you know, if you can leave them alone, and just state that on the plan in a separate note and what percentage that is, even though it doesn't count, it still, you know, helps towards making an effort towards preserving trees.
Right.
That, you know, any kind of information or things you can do like that, will be helpful to us and, you know, making our determination and trying to get you moving forward. We want to get you moving forward, but it's,
Okay.
urban forestry wise, it's just too much.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, it's a very heavy wooded site.
It is, and people, you know, the site to the north had the same kind of situation, and they preserved a good amount of trees, you know, and people in Fayetteville, they like and expect to have trees. That's why we have our ordinance, it's citizen driven.
Understood. Yes,
And I know I'll be getting calls about this, like, the project.
I'm sure you hear it all the time.
And that's fine, and I just wanna make sure we're following everything, you know, to the T of the ordinance to make sure we get the best project possible, so. Then bear with us and please work with us,
Yeah,
okay,
we sure will.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions for staff? I do see that Bradford Gaines has raised his hand. I'll give that individual the ability to speak.
Yeah, hey Christian, this is Bradford, how are you?
Hi, how, are you here to speak or ask questions on,
Yes.
okay, great.
Yeah, so, we're developing the site for Splash Car Wash. You know, they purchased the site months ago, had a huge investment, in this property in the city, and we really want to get this approved. And so, one of the questions I had, are we being penalized for the trees that were previously removed by Lindsay on this site? That was one of the questions, because when we purchased the site, those trees were already cleared, so I just want to make sure that's not included and I guess pitted against us for something that we inherited already kind of messed up site.
Sure, I'll defer that question to our urban forester.
Yes, thank you for your question, Bradford. No, you're not being penalized for that. It's unfortunate it happened, but like I said, the site is down to like 58% or close to 60% now. I can't remember the exact number I put in there, which is still well above the minimum 15% that's required for preservation. So there's no penalty. The unfortunate part of it is that they did that because you could have perhaps preserved some extra trees at that northwest corner that's now an open area. But,
right.
You know, what's done is done, so all we can do is go forward.
Right. Well, and on that, is there, you know, if we're not able to meet the preservation requirements, is there a mitigation strategy of planting back additional trees in that area? Or, you know, how does would that be a solution?
That is the second option in the code, and that has been applied here. It would require, I believe, 40 mitigation trees, and 39 are shown on the site, and I have confidence that another tree can certainly be added. You have room for it. But again, it's trying to meet that first principle that preservation is the first and best priority. And I just need, you know, the site analysis report, the other design iterations, which I will go back and look at, and you know, any documentation and information like that shows, you know, you have truly done all you can to preserve as many trees as possible.
Yeah, we really kind of had a hardship here with the access point onto Joyce. You know, we had to be away from the intersection, and therefore, our curb cut and driveway, and, you know, that's through some of the areas with the trees. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if that helps our case. To echo Tommy's sentiment, we have tried to push and pull. I mean, we've reoriented parking spaces. At one time, we had tree preservation between the two buildings. Then we were told, no, change the plan, put the parking in the middle, save the trees on the western border. So we're willing to help and try to figure this out, but we just, my client is losing a lot of patience right now, you know, needing to get this going. So I would just say the design team is here to help and coordinate the staff, but we just need some creative solutions to get this passed through.
Well, that sounds great and all, and I certainly understand what you're saying, but I just need this information, and if you can put that all in a simple email, paragraph, some kind of site analysis report, that, you know, wraps all this information up together in a neat, tidy bow, that would really help.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
do that. Thank you.
I see that Tommy still has his hand raised. Did you have another question? You'd like to unmute your microphone? Okay, hand is lowered. All right. Do you still have questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I think then we will go ahead and continue on. I did just want to mention again that since the item is being tabled, we will see it once more on a Tech Plat agenda. Once it's been forwarded from Tech Plat, it will be an administrative approval after that. So it won't, this project type won't need to go on to continue on to subdivision committee or planning commission. So hopefully those items can get addressed quickly and we can move this one forward. With that, we will go then to our first item of new business. This is PPL 2022-09. This is a preliminary plat submitted by Jorgensen and Associates for property located north of Chapel Drive. The property is zoned RSF 8, residential single family 8 units per acre, and contains approximately 15.1 acres. The request is for the preliminary plat of 44 residential lots. Do we have an applicant present on this item today? I see a Mr. Justin Jorgensen has raised his hand. If you would please unmute your microphone, state your name for the record, please.
Sure, good morning, Justin Jorgensen with Jorgensen Associates.
Good morning. Mr. Ryan Umberger is the planner on this item, so I'll let him introduce the comments.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, Justin. This was a pretty clean submittal on the planning side, so thank you for that. We are okay with it moving forward. We're asking just for a couple of largely just kind of superficial revisions, asking for a dimension for lot 36's width. And then did want to just acknowledge the street improvements that are being recommended by planning and engineering. Engineering's comment laid it out pretty explicitly what they're looking for from an offsite assessment. So please just refer to that. And then we're asking for a couple of notes to be added to the plat. Basically that sidewalks indicated along unbuildable lots would be constructed by the developer prior to the final plat approval, and that street extension signs would be required for all stub outs. So pretty minor comments on the planning side of things, and yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Umberger. Engineering, did you have comments on this one?
Yes, Josh Cassidy here, engineering, did have comments on it. We are tabling the project. It looked like most of the comments concerning drainage weren't addressed from the previous submittal last year. So we actually didn't complete a full review. Just noticed that some of those points hadn't been addressed. There were a few other things that looks like most of the design criteria that were laid out were for a stormwater pond, wet pond, but fire attention seems to be proposed. So that was one thing that I did catch. And there were a few other items, as far as delineation on drainage maps, and then, on the plans, looking at, the grading plan tying into existing slopes, rear lot drainage that, was called out, last time that's not gonna be, permitted. So just a few other items that don't, seem to have been addressed from the previous submittal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Procaccio. Urban Forestry, did you have comments on this one today?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Justin. Urban Forestry is recommending this move forward. We didn't have many issues or comments. Please make sure that you show root pruning on the plan in areas where you might have cuts, existing trees. Make sure all the significant trees are located on the plan. I believe they are, but just double check that. And then also double check your grading and try to tighten it up around the areas where it's close to trees. I'm most concerned about tree T10. It has a lot of impact on it. It's next to a house near the pond at the southeast kind of corner of the site. I'm not sure if you leave it as it's shown, I don't think you should count it as preserved. You can try to preserve it, but I would count it as removed. But definitely would prefer if you could back some of the grading and impact off that root zone. And then for the landscape comments, if you could please provide more tree species for diversity. I think you've only got, 3 different species called out for street and mitigation trees. So maybe try to get an additional 3 species in there for one or the other. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire, did you have comments on this one?
Yes, good morning, Justin. I know we talked last week on the phone about the fire hydrant on Street 2. We could get that to the west towards Gray Squirrel a little bit. I think you're just a little over 350 feet from the fire hydrant here on Chapel to that one. But the one on Gray Squirrel, you're like 680 feet to that. So if we could just kind of shift that a little bit to the west, kind of get that more in line, a little closer to the 500-foot mark. Other than that, that's the only comment fire has.
Thank you. Any other city divisions wishing to make comments on this one today? Right, hearing none, I will turn over to the applicant. Mr. Jorgensen, do you have any questions for staff?
Yeah, it's, no problem, we'll get everything fixed up. I do have one question for Josh. Is there any chance that Jonathan Ely left any kind of maybe notes or anything in the file? Because I did have lengthy conversations with him about this last time, and I'll just have to meet with you again and kind of review why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in Energov. Was it, did y'all email back and forth, or was it phone conversation?
It was both, and unfortunately, I can't seem to find the email, but I'll just get with you and go over kind of the drainage issues, and there's kind of some previous history to this, and it's changed how it originally was, and there were some drainage issues kind of offside to the east, and I'll give you a shout, and we'll get together and go over it.
Okay, that works.
Perfect, thank you guys.
Thank you. Just as a recap, that item will be getting tabled, so we will see that again at a tech plat, on a subsequent tech plat agenda. Once you get that resubmitted, we'll just get it on the next appropriate tech plat meeting. And then with that, we will move on to our next item. Our next item is LSD 2022-025. This is a large-scale development submitted by Ozark Civil Engineering for property located at 2222 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Properties are zoned C2 thoroughfare commercial and contain 4 parcels with approximately 2.4 acres. The request is to include a 3,973 square foot convenience store with gas pumps. And do we have an applicant present on the item today?
Good morning. Mike Kloffelter with Ozark Civil Engineering.
Good morning, Mike. So I'm the planner on this one, as you probably know, since we've been working on this project for a while. We will be forwarding the item today, if you can believe that.
Okay.
Thank you. We did have just a couple, minor comments to issue on this, since we have been looking at this recently. It was just really just a plat comment. Where is the sheet? There we go. If you could just include show the rear setback of 20 feet on the site plan. And I did know that you included a note about the BOA variance that you got, so that's fine. I just wanted to see that setback shown just for that, just graphically. And then the other comment I had is if in the street table, if you could just include the sidewalk and green space as well.
Okay.
For MLK, just so it's in that same area for easy visibility. Other than that, those were the only comments that planning had. We just wanted to make sure that you also included the list of the other variances that you got as well, because I think you guys also did receive variances for the drive aisle widths with the original large scale as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So just include that note. Other than that, no comments from planning. We'll be moving this one forward.
Okay, thank you.
With that, engineering, did you have any comments on this one?
We didn't have any comments on this one.
All right. And urban forestry.
I just have a few comments, they're very minor. The mitigation requirements chart on tree preservation plan has an additional 601 square feet and can take out of high priority category if you want. That might be a few less mitigation trees. I'm fine if you don't want to. We always appreciate more trees. And then on the landscape plan, overall the required number of trees is correct. Please note on the irrigation plan that the amount of water needs to be watched carefully on existing tree roots to make sure, they acclimate to that, since they're not used to, artificial irrigation necessarily. Or maybe they were in the past, but just note that, and that's all I have. Thank you. I recommend move forward.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Fire, did you have any comments on this one today?
Yes, good morning. The only comment Fire has is that all areas not designated as parking need to be marked as no parking fire lane.
Okay,
That's all I have.
excellent. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not.
Okay, so we'll see you at subdivision committee with this one, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
I appreciate you. Next, we have LSD 2022-026. This is a large-scale development submitted by Ecological Design Group for property located at 2115 West Markham Road. The property is zoned CPZD, Commercial Plan Zoning District, and contains approximately 4.22 acres. The request is for the construction of Cabin Ridge Road and proposed public improvements. Do we have an applicant present on the item? I see a Brom driver has raised his hand. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, hey, good morning. This is Brown Driver with Ecological Design Group.
All right, Ryan Umberger is the planner on this one, so with that, I will let him introduce the item.
Morning, Braun. We didn't have too terribly much to say from the planning side of things on this, since there are no structures being constructed. That simplified a lot of the comments on the planning end. So we are okay with this moving forward. I did want to just point out a few things revisions that we're requesting as on subsequent submittals for this. So first is just including the existing and 2040 master street plan dimensions from the center line of the existing roads. I saw that I think on Sang and potentially on Markham Road as well, that there was a dimension for the overall right of way. And so we're just looking for an additional dimension or dimensions showing the existing and master street plan from the center line. And that's relevant because we're also looking for setbacks, the line work for setbacks to be dimensioned from that master street plan right of way. So if you could just include that, and one thing that would be helpful to include on this as well is just a summary of the zoning information, what the setbacks are for this PZD. in terms of street improvements, we did leave a comment that we're requesting to reconstruct sidewalk along Markham Road to match the typical residential link street. So we've included a snip of the cross section. Basically, this would just be having a 6-foot green space and 6-foot sidewalks. And then looking for curb radii to be dimensioned in a couple places. And then maybe the last comment that we had on the planning side is just including a note confirming that this property falls within the Hilltop Overlay District. So that's it on the planning side of things.
Thank you, Mr. Umberger. Engineering, did you have comments on this?
Good morning, Brom. Just had a couple minor comments on here. As far as curb radii, and just to note that I didn't look at profiles at this stage. That'll happen at grading permit. Didn't have any comments on the drainage report. Noticed it was the same one that was submitted with the first phase of the overall development a couple years ago. So no comments there at this point. We're recommending it move forward.
Okay, urban forestry.
Thank you. Yes, good morning, Ron. So please make sure you show the tree preservation fencing and root pruning limits on the tree preservation plan. And then I was confused by the tree preservation and mitigation numbers. 714 square feet is your mitigation number since you're preserving 64% of the trees. And then you do need to dedicate tree preservation easements since it's an LSD project. But now that I'm thinking about this again, those are or will be residential lots between Sang and Cabin Ridge Road. Is that correct? Like lots to be developed with houses?
Mr. Driver? Raise your
I
hand.
think, well, if he comes
Okay,
back on, maybe he
let's
can
see.
answer.
Okay, I'm back now. So we interrupted up for a second and then I had to re-raise my hand. Sorry about that. Yeah, well, so I guess the owner's not quite sure how or when it will become residential. I guess by the possibility it may not, I guess.
Okay.
I don't think they're ready to commit to making it a subdivision at this time.
Okay, but it may be developed into something in the future, I guess, right?
That is true. That is possible, but it's nothing proposed at this time.
Okay. Well, I think it's good then how you've shown that off-site preservation area. My comments were saying, you're already preserving 64% on site, so you don't necessarily have to do that. But if you do that, that will be beneficial for the future for what you may want to do with these lots. So also an overarching thing, I think most of the site is in the HHOD and you have it listed as 50% HHOD in the calculation chart. So please look at that again. Let me know if you find something different, but that's what it looks like to me. Anyway, I think with the way you're dedicating offsite, that can help towards preservation for whatever may happen on those lots or that area in the future, though that'll have to be considered in its HHOD, so definitely will be looked at by urban forestry. And the other comment I have for landscape plan is to go, well, this goes along with the two, to go ahead and show the required street lot trees and their, species and sizes, even though they may be planted later as each lot develops. I need to think about that because I understand not wanting to plant them now and having them disturbed in the near future if those develop. But, if that doesn't develop for 10 or more years, we'd rather have trees growing and, providing shade. Of course, you may have a lot of canopy along the streets that's preserved, that, counts the street trees. So just take another look at that. Maybe we can chat, sometime offline about it. And that's all comments. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I appreciate that comment. I do think the intention there was on the Sang Avenue side, the public street side, that there is a significant amount of existing trees that would count for the street tree requirement. This is sort of like considered like a private, if we were to subdivide it, it would be on a private alley, on a public street. But I think that's kind of where we are proposing trees along that road, based on the preservation.
If you could, on the landscape plan, call it out as, in parentheses, private alley or whatever it's sort of officially going to be designated as, that would help too.
Okay.
Just to know that then it wouldn't have the street tree requirement. Street trees are required on both public and private streets, but not on alleys. So, maybe that's where some of my confusion was. Anyway, Urban Forestry recommends that move forward and let me know if you have questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Fire, did you have any comments on this one?
No, Fire has no comments, recommend moving forward.
Okay. Any other city divisions wishing to make comments on this today? All right, hearing none, it sounds like the item is getting forwarded. I will turn it back over to the applicant. Do you have any other questions for staff?
No, I think we're good. I guess maybe a question about the timing of the notification. Does that happen this week?
Yes, so you should get an email from staff Friday of this week letting you know that your public notification sign is ready to go. Your next stop will be the subdivision committee meeting. That will be on August 11th. Your notification information will be due back to staff by August 3rd, the day of your resubmittal as well.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Yep. Let me know if you have any let staff know if you have any additional questions in the meantime. We'll help you out.
Sounds good.
All right, next we will go to FPL 2022-03. This is a final plat submitted by ESI for property located at South Benchmark Lane. The property is zoned NC Neighborhood Conservation and CS Community Services and contains approximately 29.59 acres. The request is for the final plat of 43 residential lots. And do we have an applicant present on the item? We have a Blake Murray has raised his hand. Let me give you permission to speak. If you could just state your name and organization for the record, please.
Hey, it's Blake Murray with ESI.
Good morning, Mr. Murray. Gretchen Harrison is the planner on this one, so I will let her introduce the item.
Thanks, Jesse. Good morning, Blake. So planning is going to be forwarding this project this morning. Most of my comments, it looks like there's a lot of markups, but they're mostly plat related and just making sure that you're meeting the conditions of approval for the preliminary plat. Also just want to preface with, we did have some trouble with the Blue Beam review session for the project, so each division did submit markups and comments as attachments to the portal, and they are combined on the documents that were submitted, so apologies about that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. To go over some of planning comments, just make sure that you let us know whether streetlights have been installed or purchased, and if you could please provide a receipt for those. It looked like there was one space on Wagon Wheel Avenue and along Rupel Road where some additional streetlights might be needed, so just double check that. Also, the setbacks that were shown, it looked like most of the property is zoned CS, and that does have a 10 to 25 foot build-to zone. So make sure that 2 lines are shown there, and that the 10-foot kind of front half of it is shown on the lot, and that the detail is updated to reflect that. Otherwise, just ask for some clarity and kind of had drafting comments. Make sure that the legend is accurate. It looked like the center line mismatched with what was on the legend, and you need the plan page number and right-of-way dimension for the center line, things like that. I don't think there was anything major that came up in reviewing this. So again, just make sure that you look through all of the comments that I had here and address those and get it resubmitted, and it should be good to move forward and get a conditional approval issued.
Perfect, thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you very much. Engineering, did you have comments on this?
I did, but have a few comments on it as far as, first one being that engineering can't sign the final plat until the grading permit has been closed out. Most of the other ones kind of revolve around, showing easements, especially for that off-site sewer extension, that goes through subsequent phases, of the project. And then the other one was graying out or not showing improvements that aren't a part of this phase. So any roads, sidewalks, storm drainage, utility lines that aren't actually installed and accepted shouldn't be shown on the plat. And then on the previous page, mentioned that I know we just signed the plat for the lots coming off the roundabout. And so including that information as far as those lot lines and I think there were a few other comments on there, but nothing major. Just making sure that we close out the grading permit before any signatures or before engineering signature is on the plat. So any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Urban Forestry.
Good morning, Blake. I have minor comments. Urban Forestry is going to recommend this one move forward as well. If you, on the tree preservation plan, there's just a little bit of preserved trees over there on the, I guess that's the west, on the left-hand side of the page. If you can call out, a range of species and sizes, that would be helpful since we don't have a tree inventory list on this page, which is fine, but it can just be really simple. And then on landscape plan, I was wondering, do you know if all the common area trees, the street trees along Rubel are planted yet?
I do not know that, but I'll get with Jonathan and get you an answer today.
Yeah, just let me know. It's fine if they're not. I prefer they not be planted right now if they haven't been, because it's the worst time of year to plant and it's so hot and dry. So it can certainly wait until fall, but I uploaded information on the portal about the landscape surety for this project, so that will need to be looked at and taken care of before I can sign off on final plat.
Okay.
They'll need to place, landscape performance bond on those street trees if they haven't already planted them, and then also on the lot trees. If they have already planted those common lot trees, then they'll need to place their 3-year landscape maintenance bond. So just keep me posted on that and get that surety or bond or whatever they're gonna do rolling along. And then also, there was just one street tree along lot 32 that just needs to be moved, like, it looks like where that street kind of bows out or something, just move it back into the green space. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Melissa.
Great. Fire, did you have any comments on this one?
And no, Fire has no comments on this one, recommend move forward.
Great. So it sounds like the item is getting forwarded. I don't believe I heard anybody state otherwise. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not, thank you all.
Okay, so procedurally, once you resubmit, it is administrative after this. So if comments are addressed adequately, you should expect a conditional approval letter. If not after this round, then maybe the next one. So let us know if you have any outstanding questions.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. That brings us to our last item of the day. This is FPL 2022-010. This is a final plat submitted by Jorgensen and Associates for property located at 191 North Hawkstone Drive. The property is zoned RSF4, residential single family, 4 units per acre, and contains approximately 49.56 acres. The request is to subdivide the property into 21 lots. Do we have an applicant present on this item today? All right, I see Mr. Jorgensen has raised his hand. Mr. Jorgensen, if you would please state your name for the record.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning, Blake Jorgensen.
All right, so staff, planning staff didn't have too many comments on this. If you would just bear with me while I get my screen shared here.
Sure, no problem.
We had a few minor plat comments to start. Just notice, get your title block updated here to address that this is a final plat. And then there was just a little bit of formatting issue there with the Parks and Rec signature block, so we wanted to make sure that that gets addressed. Into the meat and potatoes of the comments, I did see, it looked like, and maybe I missed it, I did scan it pretty closely, but I couldn't, it looked like maybe your street lights, you might have been missing one to meet our typical minimum there. So make sure one of those gets added. I did also want to request that you would add a right-of-way dimension down here, where, the street ends. I know it's a condition of approval from the preliminary plat that the street is going to end there, but if we could just indicate that this is in fact going to be right-of-way all the way to the end of the property, I think that would just add some clarity there. And then, there was just one other minor comment about the dimension on your build-to zone. Just was a little bit crammed in here with a few other dimensions, so if you could just maybe relocate that somewhere with a little bit more clarity. That's actually all planning staff had. This looks like it's in pretty good shape from our perspective, so if you just address those minor things, we should expect this one to move forward. With that, I will kick it over to the engineering division. Josh Boccaccio.
Yeah, good morning, Blake. Didn't have very many comments on this one, namely, we have to get that grading permit closed out before engineering signs the plat. Did ask for addresses to be shown, and then on this page, some additional information as far as topo goes, to take a look at where that water is flowing.
Sure, no problem.
I think those were the main two comments. Nothing major for us.
Good deal, I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you. Urban Forestry, did you have comments today?
I have a few, thank you. One question is, are the existing trees on lot 8 still there? I did not see them on GIS, and it looks like a house is being built there. Maybe I was looking at the wrong lots, but double check that. Yeah, those 3 lots there, that one and the 2 to the left of it or east of it, I saw houses on the GIS, so.
Okay.
Anyway, just to update that, so, if that tree, that has been removed and put, redo the calculations with that removal, if you don't mind, please. It may not affect mitigation, but it may, maybe to add extra tree or 2. And then also, in the tree preservation calculation chart, excuse me, it was calling out CS zoning as well as NC, I think, but it looks like this site is entirely an NC, so just double check that.
Okay, well,
Excuse me. I don't think it's a big deal. I think they're both 20% preservation, so it's fine, but just minor thing. Also, let's see, landscape comments. Are there still, early on in previous comments back in the PPO round of this, there was some comment about the outlots and saying which lots are outlots. There aren't any outlots, right? These are all house lots?
yes, on this page, there's no outline.
I think I could just disregard that from
Okay.
previous iterations. And then also, do you know if the 3 street trees, the common area trees up there kind of like at the northwest, and those 15 mitigation trees, do you know if they're planted yet, Blake? Or
No, they're not.
Okay, that's fine, and again, they don't need to plant them soon. If they can wait until fall so the weather cools off and we actually get rain again, that would be great.
Yeah.
I did upload information about landscape sureties, performance bond, maintenance bond, all that into Intergov. So take a look at that and get that, to your clients to start getting that rolling, because I'll need that for final plat sign off.
Okay, no problem.
All right, let me know if you have any questions along the way. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Fire, did you have any comments on this one?
The only comment Fire has was just make sure that your 27-foot streets are marked, no parking on one side. Other than that, that's the only comment Fire has.
All right. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not. Thanks for y'all's time today.
Thank you. So it'll be administrative after this. Once you get it resubmitted, we'll take a look at that and hopefully get you a conditional approval letter and get you moving on your way.
All right, thank y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
That was our last item on the agenda. So with that, I will just see if anybody had any other additional questions or comments. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. Thank you all.